Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another pick and prediction video in college football. Last week, 6-3, had a chance for 7-2. Get a bad beat there at the end. Arkansas scoring a meaningless touchdown in the final seconds. That's the fourth time this season I've been beat on a meaningless score in the final seconds of an SEC game. Insanity. That said, 6-3 last week, 4-4 the week before, 6-2 the week before that. Starting to turn things around. Finally got back up to 500, 25-25. Got a chance to get over 500. 6 games on tap for you in this video. Let's see if we can get it done. Let's kick things off with game of the day. College game day in town. We have Missouri visiting Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, 2.5-point favorite in this game. We look at this game. Let's look at it from the Missouri side. Missouri's bread is buttered by two things: running game and the pass rush. So let's talk the running game. Hardy, Roberts, elite level rush attack early on in the season. You get into the last two games, though, competition stiffened up. Things got a little tougher for him. Hardy's averaging 3 yards per carry in the last two games. That's against Alabama and Auburn. Vanderbilt, 12th ranked run defense in the country. So things aren't going to get so easy for Hardy in this one either. So now we're looking at this. We're talking about, well, this might be a one-dimensional attack for Missouri because I don't think Missouri's going to have a consistent running game in this one. Pribula, his pass, the conservative, 6.7 yards, average depth of target. Conservative pass offense when you watch Missouri play. A lot of horizontal passes, a lot of dink and dunking going on. He's not gonna stress this Vanderbilt secondary. On the flip side of that, look at Diego Pavia. He's putting in Heisman type work. 7th in the country in expected points, 8.2 yards per attempt. Leads Vandy in rushing with 438 yards. Averages nearly 6 yards a carry. Reality is he's looking like Johnny Manziel out there, but he doesn't got the flash and the flair of a Johnny Manziel, so he's not getting that kind of hype. But he should be a front runner for the Heisman, in my opinion. He's gonna have to go against the toughest pass rush though that he's seen this season. Missouri, number 1 in the country in pressure rate, sack rate of 14.4%. Vandy, they've gone against LSU, but LSU's pass rushers, they went into the portal to get pass rushers, but they haven't really panned out. Alabama, they don't really rush the passer like they have in the past. They're not really that great of a pass rush this season. So this is going to be a new environment or a new situation for Pavia to have to deal with this season himself. But when I look at this game, I also look at the home road game environment context and around that story. Missouri, as hard as it is to believe, last week, October 18th, that was Missouri's first road game of the season. They go to overtime and beat Auburn in overtime. Missouri hasn't beat a road SEC team, a good SEC team on the road since 2022. Vanderbilt's a good SEC team. Auburn is not. So is Missouri going to be able to break that trend, or are things going to be status quo? That home field advantage in Nashville is big. The game days in town, you saw it in the LSU game. The crowd gets raucous. The crowd is behind these Commodores. These crowd is behind Pavia. Now with game day in town too, that's just going to up the intensity and the atmosphere in this game. So because of that, because of Pavia, because I think Pavia is going to be way better than Pribula in this game, and I don't think Ahmad Hardy or the running game is really going to get on track, go ahead and give me Vanderbilt, and I'm going to lay the 2.5. Going on to the next game. Sticking in the SEC, we have Ole Miss visiting Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 5.5-point favorite. Open at 4.5, has gone up to 5.5. We look at this game, and for me, it's about the quarterbacks. So you have, but let's talk pass rush for Oklahoma for a second, or defense for Oklahoma for a second. 2nd in the country in pass rush pressure rate. 6th in the country in pass defense yards per attempt. That said, though, I think I think the defensive line kind of has been helping out that Oklahoma pass defense. And maybe you could say some competition in there too. The safeties, Bowen and Spears-Jennings, as you see here, 21.3 yards per attempt, 17.3 yards per attempt. They've been had on some big plays this season. But Oklahoma's pass defense this season, they've gone against a struggling Arch Manning, a true freshman quarterback in Michigan. South Carolina, who has absolutely no options in his base. I think the OC there has ruined Lenore Sellers. So they haven't really been challenged this season. So I don't know if that 6th-ranked pass defense is really the 6th-ranked pass defense. With that said, now you're going against Trinidad Chambliss. This is a legit passing offense for Ole Miss, by the way, 8th in the country. And Chambliss against LSU, better secondary than OU. And Georgia, comparable defense, in my opinion, to Oklahoma outside of pass rush. 567 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.9 yards per attempt in those 2 games combined. So Chambliss has done it against tougher competition. So this isn't going to be new to him. This is going to be business as usual for him. On the flip side of that, looking at the quarterbacks, John Mateer. John Mateer, looked like maybe a Heisman contender early on in this season. Got injured. Since he's come back from his injury, he got to play Texas. Now, you got to play Texas your first game back from injury. You play that defense. That's tough, an elite defense. But he throws 3 picks in that game. Then, South Carolina last week, I believe he had about a 5.8 yards per attempt, was doing nothing. 150 yards passing. I don't know. He clearly hasn't regained his form yet. Is he going to regain his form this week against the pass defense for Ole Miss? 6.3 yards per attempt, 60% completion. Not elite, but not bad either. I don't know if this is the defense you're going to see Mateer bounce back and get things done. And then when we talk about running game, I've talked about the running game for OU before. I don't think they have a running back on roster that is a legitimate SEC starter. And Ole Miss, Kejuan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, they combined for 134 yards rushing per game. OU third in the country against the run, so they're not going to go crazy in the run game, but I think there's going to be enough to give them some balance with the passing game that Chambliss is going to provide. For OU to win this game, it's going to be basically Mateer turning back the clock before the injury and playing hero ball, slinging it downfield, hitting wide receivers who really aren't that great, running, taking off on scrambles, ad hoc run plays, ad-libbing run plays, and just making plays with his legs as well. He's going to have to play hero ball. So because of that, I like Ole Miss with a plus 5.5. I'm not sure about how well Mateer is going to do this game. I don't think he's gotten back to his form yet. And playing hero ball against a top-ranked Ole Miss team like this, I don't think that's going to fare well. I don't know if Ole Miss is going to win the game, but go ahead and give me the 5.5 on what I believe is going to be a competitive game. All right, let's move on to game number 3. Texas visiting Mississippi State. Texas opened as a 7-point favorite, has dropped to 6.5, and I understand why it's dropped. You got Arch Manning has just been absolutely struggling this season. Outside of a game against Florida where he got sacked a bunch of times, but he made plays down the field, he just does not really look good against P4 competition. Last week they beat Kentucky in overtime 16-13, and that was atrocious, sloppy football played by Texas and Arch Manning in that game. That said, Mississippi State's defense, for one, not that strong. And for 2, this is a game Arch Manning played last season. He started because Quinn Ewers was out, and he looked good in this game. So is this a turn back the clock game for Arch Manning? Is Mississippi State the answer to his struggles? One thing that's going to help him, I know you see here, Texas 73rd in the country running the football. They're supposed to get C.J. Baxter back for this game. One thing that's hurt Texas this year is the running back room has been decimated by injuries. But this week, they're supposed to be healthy. Q should be starting. Baxter should be there backing him up or being the 1A, 1B type of situation. Mississippi State, 97th in the country against the run. This is a game that I think you're going to see Texas look a lot better than 73rd against the run. Arch Manning can also take off running as well. I think the Longhorns can really control the clock, control the tempo in this game on the ground, and open up some passing down the field again against a Mississippi State defense that really isn't that strong. And on the flip side of that, Blake Shapen, a quarterback for Mississippi State, he's having a solid year, 8 yards per attempt. But under pressure, which he's going to be because Texas is one of the top 15 pressure teams in the country, 46% completion, 5.4 yards per attempt, 7.7% interception rate, 29.9% sack rate. So basically a third of the time, it's a negative play in terms of a pick or a sack. And then he's completing less than half the throws when he's going to be under pressure. And I expect him to be under pressure quite a bit in this game. So because of that reason, go ahead and give me Texas the latest 6.5. I don't think Mississippi State's passing game is going to get on track. I don't know if you've also heard the running back Bothwell is questionable. He's probably going to be a game time decision, so I don't know if he's going to play or not. But if he's out, they wouldn't have a running game against Texas anyway, regardless. But that's just another hit to their offense. And I think the Texas running game is going to go for a boatload in this one. So Texas laying the 6.5. All right, moving on to. That's it for the SEC. We're going on to the Big Ten. We got UCLA, the resurgent UCLA Bruins visiting the Indiana Hoosiers. Hoosiers 25-point favorite. They open at 23.5. Early money came in on the Hoosiers in this one. So you talk UCLA, they fired their coach. Ever since they fired their coach with the interim coach, they've knocked off Penn State, basically ended James Franklin's career, right? Though that had more to do with Oregon than UCLA, in my opinion. They've blown out a terrible Michigan State team, and then they beat Maryland in their last game. Resurgent team, won 3 straight games. But when I look at UCLA, I'm like, well, why have things turned around? Who's playing better? What unit is playing better? If just looking at it stat wise, you look at UCLA, the biggest change has been their pass defense. They were 7.4 yards per attempt, 67% completion rate. In the 3 games they won, 5.4 yards per attempt, 53% completion rate. So a big change there. That said, sometimes you got to look at context. You did against Drew Aller. Some people would say good quarterback. I've been critical of him from day one of doing these videos. Aiden Childs of Michigan State, terrible quarterback, right? Just call it what it is. And then Maryland, Malik Washington, true freshman quarterback who's looked really good this season. But UCLA did make him look worse than he's looked all year, so I'll give him that credit. That said, UCLA's pass rush, they averaged 0.9 sacks per game. There's going to be no pressure on Mendoza in this one. And now you're going against a Mendoza who's way better than those quarterbacks that you face. 9.2 yards per attempt, 9th in the country. 70% completion percentage, 6th in the country. They've got a balanced running game that's going to be able to open up play action for you. UCLA is going to really be stressed and tested in this game with Mendoza. He's got a bunch of receivers to throw to, especially led by a legit wide receiver one in Elijah Surratt. So this is going to be a tough assignment for the UCLA Bruin secondary. And when you look on the flip side of that, Indiana's pass defense, 20th in country in yards per attempt, 6.3. They've been playing defensively against the run, 8th in the country. UCLA hasn't been able to run the ball all year. And then Nico, if you're looking in the 3-game winning streak, we'll say, man, Nico must have been playing better. Man, no, he hasn't. If you look at the numbers, Nico hasn't played better in this 3-game winning streak. The only thing that you could say he's done better is running the football. He's ran the ball more, and he's ran the ball more effectively. That's not going to matter in this game. And Curt Cignetti doesn't strike me as the kind of coach that gives a damn about any resurgent UCLA Bruins, offense or anything like that. I think I'm gonna lay the 25 in this one, and I think after this game, it's gonna be back to, coaching search for the UCLA Bruins. But all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We've got going over to the ACC. We've got SMU, 2.5-point favorite visiting Wake Forest. This dropped from 5.5 to 2.5, so a lot of money. There's a lot push on the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Now you look at this game, you're like, man, Wake Forest, this is a big game in the ACC. Wake Forest is 4-2 this year, if you didn't know. They're 1-2 in conference, and if they win this game, SMU is undefeated in conference. So if they win this game, it keeps in the running for an outside shot of maybe making the ACC title game. So they got a lot to play for. And SMU, they're one of 3 undefeated teams in the ACC, so SMU definitely has a lot to play for. They want to get back to the ACC title game and maybe win it this time. So when we look at this game, you say, man, well, how the hell is Wake Forest 4-2? Pass defense. Number 1 pass defense in terms of yards per attempt in the country this season. Completion percentage, they're 6th. They are absolutely shutting down passing attacks. But to say here, you got a competition, man. You got to look into context, right? See who have they played. You say, man, they played Georgia Tech. Look at Georgia Tech play. Look at Haynes King's passing numbers. They throw short passes there. They do not stretch the field at Georgia Tech. So that's not impressive to me, right? Look at Kyron Drones of Virginia Tech, an inconsistent quarterback. I would say that they played Oregon State, a winless football team that fired their coach about a month ago. The best QB they face is C.J. Bailey of NC State, and he had 3 touchdowns and 200 yards passing in a 10-point win. Kevin Jennings can do that. 32nd in the country in pass offense yards per attempt. They allow a 4.4% sack rate. Wake Forest's pass rush has a 4.4% sack rate, one of the lowest in the FBS. So he's going to have time. He's got a number of receivers to throw the ball to. They spread the ball around at SMU. So he's going to really stress this Wake Forest Demon Deacon secondary. So I don't think you're going to see this number 1 ranked pass defense for Wake Forest show up in this game. And then on the flip side of that, you have to have a quarterback to be able to go blow for blow with Jennings this one, because I think Jennings is going to hit some passes. Robbie Ashford versus this SMU pass rush is an advantage for the SMU pass rush. You have Smith and Robertson on the edges for SMU. Both of them have 11% pressure rate, which contributes to their 11th rank sack. Their pass rush is 11th ranked in sacks per game. Ashford under pressure, so I'm saying that because Ashford is going to see pressure in this game. 30% completion percentage, 16% on target. That means whether the ball was completed or not, was it on target? Did it hit the guy in stride? 16% of the time it did, with a 5.9 yard per attempt. That's poor. Poor numbers. I think this SMU pass rush is going to affect this Wake Forest, is going to affect Ashford and the Wake Forest passing game. And then they're going to get behind, and that's going to take Claiborne and the running game out of it for Wake Forest. And they're going to have to pass the ball to try to keep up with SMU, who I think is going to hit some big plays in this one and put some points on the board. So for that reason, I'm going against the grain. Everybody else, they're clearly going with Wake Forest. And this, I'm laying the 2.5. I'm not buying Wake Forest secondary. I think a lot of it is Wake Forest. I think a lot of the reason why this line went down is people are looking at Wake Forest and they lost by 1 to Georgia Tech. I'm not buying Georgia Tech though either. And I'm not buying Wake Forest. So go ahead and lay the 2.5 and take an SMU. All right, moving on to the final game. Going to the Big 12. This is a big game in the Big 12. You got Houston visiting Arizona State. Both of these teams have one loss in the Big 12. So the loser to this game is basically out of it in terms of the Big 12. There's a lot of parity in the Big 12. There's a log jam of teams fighting for first and second place in that conference right now. You don't want to lose this game. Arizona State comes in this game as an 8.5-point favorite and has dropped to 7.5. Two big things to note, maybe even three to note for Arizona State. Talk about passing. You're talking about Sam Levitt. 104th in explosives this year is what Sam Levitt is at Arizona State. That's not good. Now, Jordan Tyson, one of the top wide receivers in the country, he's been ruled out for this game. And to show you how important he is to the offense, he has 93 targets, right? The next wide receiver in targets is Malik McClain with 25. So everything has been Jordan Tyson. So now who are they going to? They're going to have this. Who is Levitt going to for big plays? Because he wasn't getting them anyway with Tyson in there. Now what is he going to do? Then you go on the flip side of that. Houston, they got Connor Wegman, 8.4 yards per attempt, 9.5 average depth of target. He's going down the field. He's hitting plays, averaging 200 yards a game. He's having a solid season. The Arizona State Sun Devils are led by their pass rush by Prince Dorba. He is ruled doubtful for this game, so I'm going to count him as out. He's the top pass rusher on the team, and he's the only edge player on this team with a double-digit pressure rate mark. So now Wegman is probably going to have more time than you originally anticipated in this game. And then on top of that, I don't have it here, but Jordan Crooks, the top linebacker for Arizona State, he is ruled questionable. I don't know if he's going to play or not. That's probably going to be a game-time decision. So that's something you might want to look at tomorrow. But he's ruled questionable, and that's going to hurt against the running game. And Dean Connors, 4.7 yards per carry, 77 yards a game. He's providing balance to this Houston offense. So the big thing for me is Arizona State is a beat-up team. Levitt coming back from injury. He came back from injury last week. But this is a beat-up team. They're not healthy, and they're going against a Houston team that's quietly having a really, really strong season. Led by a balanced offense with Connor Wickham's passing and running, by the way, and Dean Connors running. Now, they can be had in the secondary, 87th ranked pass defense yards per attempt, but I don't know if Arizona State has the receivers that are going to get open consistently and make plays down the field in this one. So because of that, I'm not saying that Houston's going to win the game outright, but 7.5 on the road, I think this is going to be a competitive game because I don't think Arizona State has the weapons, offensively or defensively, to make big plays in this one. So go ahead and give me Houston with a 7.5. So anyways, that wraps it up. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that. You're going to see more college football and obviously NFL picks and predictions as we continue to progress through the football season. Take care.